Welcome everybody to the much anticipated premiere episode of the Roundtable, MLG's Dota 2 weekly talk show. We have a great amount of content in store for you today, including an announcement later on that's going to be super exciting, so be sure to stay tuned for the whole show. I just want to let you know what the Roundtable is going to be about. It's going to chronicle the competitive scene of Dota 2. We're also going to follow patch notes and everything in between, so this will be a major source of information for you every week. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to who's going to be joining me today in the show. I am John, NYJohn Hogan, and I'll be joined by two great Dota 2 personalities, TobiWanDOTA from NYJohn and Purge from, well, he's Purge Gamers, of course.
Purge Gamers, that's right. Yeah.
So how are you guys doing today?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, I feel nice. Just had lunch, so I'm going to be super high energy, like 10% more than normal, so.
That's exactly what we want, so I'm excited. And Toby, how are you doing today? It's late in Germany. We're sorry about that, but thanks for coming out.
No problem. It's better than the 1 a.m. we were going to do this at. So, yeah, the night is still young. I live on American time anyway, so it's kind of okay for me. But, yeah, been a fun, busy day. Last preparing for TI. So, yeah, feeling a little bit chilled from that. But, yeah, ready to do a show, man.
It's a nice little intermission for you guys between getting back to the competition after a long summer of intense Dota action. Of course, I just want to announce that this is the first of many things to come from MLG in Dota 2 world. So definitely excited for that. And we're going to see a lot more content come out from them for the future. The announcement at the end of the show will definitely be a little sneak peek into what they have in store. But stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we want to get right into the discussions. And the first thing is breaking news that we actually saw come out yesterday from Valve. It's the new prize pool setup for TI3 that includes the community-funded effort from the Compendium. And I don't know if you guys took a look at this. We can look at my screen as well. It shows us the new breakdown, and there's a lot of money being thrown in there in the top 8 distribution. Do you guys have any input on how they actually went about doing this?
Toby, would you like to go first?
Well,
I have things to say as well. But
it's pretty obvious the way I look at it, where you say, okay, well, it's just it's still the top 8. It's still making it so getting it, like, just attending the TI is a great achievement, but they're still making it worthwhile to place in the top 8. So not everybody takes something home like some people may have thought the price will be split. So I kind of like it where they reward the teams who actually perform well at the international. As far as the split goes, I'm not really surprised by it that much. I still think the percentage split-wise is looking good. Like 1.35 million for first place. It just makes it so much bigger for the first place now, but it's still a great second, third, fourth, and then the consolation prize is down to 8. Like, I love it, man. I love it. I love the fact that communities put so much money into the prize pool as well.
I do agree that the top 8 should be the ones rewarded since it is an invite tournament, and it feels like qualifier. Maybe you would spread it to all 16 teams. The one thing that I was a little concerned about was how top heavy it was, because as many people know, like, there's a ton of pro players that are trying to make it as a profession, and a lot of them simply don't get enough money just because player salaries individually are pretty low. So I feel bad for some of the teams that, even though they're really talented, they might even hit, even like the 7th, 8th place isn't that much. It's like 6,000 a person after you go through splitting it 5 ways, and that's not even like enough to live on.
And then you get like the sponsors cut too. It's going to make it a little bit.
So I'm just a little worried that it's so top heavy, and the difference, as Hayoko pointed out, is like $750,000 or something like that between first place and second place. It's like so ridiculously top heavy that it's gonna be great for the like top 3 teams that win, but everybody else gets significantly less money, and that kind of irks me just a little bit, because I wish that the scene was more sustainable for more people rather than just the top. And I mean, the people at the top already make great money. Like, if Navi wins, like the last year before leading up to TI2, they won so much stuff that, Navi's fine, guys, but like, what about the other, like, what about the 5th to 8th place teams, the best in Europe?
That's a good point, Purge. I just want to ask you, with it being top 8 and all these teams getting a distribution that you mentioned is very top heavy, would you rather see that extend into maybe 9, 10, or do you just want a better distribution amongst the top 8, like Toby said, to kind of show that they are the best among the competition?
I don't think it would be unreasonable to extend it down a bit. I don't think all 16 should get the cash, because then there's going to be teams next year that are like, just get an invite and we've got at least $5,000. But
and
I don't
a free
know,
trip.
it down. And the trip is great. It really was. I had it last year. It was fantastic, and everything Valve did was wonderful there. But I would like to see it maybe, I don't know the best solution. That's the problem. And I'm sure they talked about this a ton, and this is the decision they came to, so I'll have to respect the decision. But I just want the scene to be more sustainable for more players than just the best ones, because it's so discouraging. If you're not on the best team, you know that you're not going to make enough money to live by it. So that's going to force more teams to have to disband and reband and try to like make sure that you have a good enough team composition. And I just wish it was a little easier for the teams that are really good but not the best to still make a decent living. And I was just hoping it would be distributed a little bit more once I saw the compendium announcement. So I'm slightly disappointed by it, but it's their choice. So.
And I hear you, Purge, but if you want to do what you're saying, you got to split beyond the 16 teams at TI.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. You kind of have to extend the reach. You're right, Toby.
Well, you don't have to like. I mean, you don't have to pay. I don't want something like LCS where a certain amount of teams just get salary because they happen to be in the league. I think that's a mistake. But I guess I was just hoping that the compendium distribution would be more equal for each team, something like that, rather than just being like it was like 50% or it was a large percentage went to like first, second, third. It was like the 7th, 8th place got like 1% of the total compendium sales, stuff like that. It's like a very small amount. And also, I mean, this isn't really like a solvable problem, but like we didn't really know where our compendium money was going when we bought it, you know? Like I could be like, like maybe last year I would have been like the biggest Dare fan ever, but like, and that's why I bought my compendium. But now I know for a fact that money wasn't going to Dare, stuff like that.
Well,
like,
do we actually know where it's all going to? Because like the solo championship, there was no talk of a prize pool for that either.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you guys. I actually did the math last night, and it adds up, and it's updating constantly. So if people continue to buy compendiums, I think we actually see a 6,000 raise from yesterday to today in first place. So I don't think there's any allocation for the solo tournament. What are your guys' take on that? Are they going to put up their own money? Should there be a prize pool?
I would guess the trophy at least. I have no idea if they haven't announced
like,
the prize pool.
If they got like a rare item or something really special like that, then I would say it's kind of worth it. Like something specially created by Valve. But yeah, I would kind of prefer a prize pool for that. It's like the wildcard match. I'm really fearful for that it turns into what happened at G1. I don't want to see that happen. The Alliance versus.
I remember now. Yeah. In case you guys didn't watch it, there was like tech problems essentially, where they were supposed to do. Are you talking about like the show match thing that they did?
Yeah, the show match, which ended up just being a complete joke. Like, I was staying awake until 2 a.m. Here in Europe waiting for that match, and then it started off, and then it looked like the players they didn't give a crap. So it wasn't the entertainment which I was thinking it was going to be.
Yeah, I assume they'll run it well. Yeah,
I hope they really do put something on it. It would make it a lot more interesting for the audience too, especially voting in your own favorite players if there is some incentive, because it's not a given. But the other thing they announced with this, of course, was the addition that Free-to-Play, the documentary they've been filming, and Toby, I believe you worked on it, is going to be airing live at the International for the audience there. Will not be streamed though. They'll also have voice actors on somewhere in the competition for people to go to and talk to and interact with, and also online autographs from the players. So they're doing a lot of things for the attendees this year. What do you guys have to say about that kind of stuff?
And the one thing you forgot was a lot. I don't know if Valve is flying them out, but there was also an entry for the modelers. So I assume like Unux and Moon and stuff like that. So some of the people that are making in-game cosmetics, they're gonna have a booth set up for them as well. So that's important to include. I talked to a couple of people about this, and some said that it seemed a little unfair in the sense that maybe they flew out all these compendium, or not compendium, but like cosmetic people, and their policy is different this year. They're not paying for flights for anybody that's not actually working for Valve, which I think is fair, because at some point like that would be way too much money every year. But I think it's an okay choice. I got a trip last year. That's fine. I think it's all fair. So it should be pretty fun. I think it's be great for the fans, especially.
I just wish there could be more fans there. The one thing I'm like worried about is like so many people would have wanted a ticket to the International, and people like hawking them out for like $600 or something like that, because they're just so rare, because the hall is just so small. It'll be nice if people just turned up to the event as well. If there were like monitors outside that people could watch the games from, or like because like Purge, you've been there before as well, into the Benaroya Hall, and there's these double doors which if you get past that, you're into the hall. You're into the lobby area, then you go down to the hall. It'd be nice that if in that lobby area outside, there was a place where people could like stream in and see people outside of the event. Like, that'll be kind of nice. Like, even if you don't have a ticket to get yourself in, like, there was a bar craft up just outside or just around the corner, and they could do feature things like that. Because I feel really sorry for all the people that can't get inside, and because of that, they just won't turn up. I'm hoping the hall is full, because last time it wasn't. People got tickets, and the hall, I think, was only filled to like maybe 80% its capacity. There was a lot of empty gaps. It was also because the screen was just so high up that if you sat in the front rows for too long, you'd basically have yourself a dead neck. So, yeah.
The back is comfortable. I watched a lot of games from the back of the hall. But
I spent most of my time chilling in the Mouse Sports booth, which is like all the way at the very, very back. It was like the perfect spot to take in things.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and head to our first topic. So our first topic of the day, outside of that breaking news, of course, is going to be the defense. Toby, you just wrapped up a season, and it was a different season for you. You decided to shorten it a little bit to let teams have a easier way if they won out to the championship. And can you tell us about how those championships went? Of course, Na'Vi versus Kai P, a really rising team. How did you enjoy those games? How did the season feel for you?
The season felt very disjointed for me. It was a lot faster and a lot more like bursty because that's what people asked for. People were like, our last season, the defense went for 3.5 months, which was way too long. But it was also because it was split by like Star Ladder Finals, by something else and something else and something else, and it was just a nightmare. So most of the teams also came to us and said, we've got so much going on. We really want to play in the defense, but with so much going on, if we play in the defense the way it was before, then we'd have no time for anything else. We said, okay, not a problem at all. So we made it so like teams had to play 4 group stage matches, which were only best of 2, so they weren't best of 3s, just 1 best of 2 per team, so 4 matches. And then the playoffs. Na'Vi actually played a grand total of 7 games in the defense.
Wow.
To win the grand final. And that's what they asked for, like 7 games, and they ended up taking home a huge prize share. I think it's actually $16,000. $12,000 they got for first place for playing 7 games. 1 of them best of 5, 2 of them best of 3, and the rest of them best of 2s. And that's
pretty amazing.
Yeah, it didn't really feel like that to a lot of people who watched it because it was split up. And we're kind of understanding to a lot of the other tournaments. Like, we made sacrifices so D2L could finish their tournament in time. We ended up running the finals midweek as well because D2L had their LAN finals and other things were going on. So it was this, it was a clusterbuck of a whole lot of tournaments trying to get themselves done and dusted before the International started up. Because everyone thought they had an extra 3 weeks. The International is like 3 weeks earlier than it was last year. So everyone's like, yeah, we'll have tons of time. There'll be like a week gap here, week gap there. So EMS tried to do their finals, Starlight tried to do their finals, we tried to do our finals, TPL tried to do their finals, D2L did their finals. I think We Play at one point was trying to do a finals, Corsair did their finals, Ghost of Gamers competition. There was just so many of these different things all clustered into one area that it was the only thing we could have done was to make it shorter. So it works. We made it shorter. People wanted it shorter. The only thing we're missing right now is a LAN final, and maybe next season.
Do you think you're going to continue with this going on to next season? Are you going to keep it as a shorter format, extend it again, or what works better for you?
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be a shorter like the same format as we did is nice and short. We might tweak it, like we're always looking at changes and ways we can improve different things. The separation of US as well as EU is something as well we've been discussing around the office, just because of like the server problems, having a CIS team playing a USC server. It's not always the best thing, but the only way to get around that is to run qualifiers in different countries and then have a LAN final at the end. That's the only real way to get around it. So it's we're open to better and new ways to do it. We tried it with the last season, the defense. It went fairly well. The only downside was it felt very disjointed, and the hype train is something we're definitely going to concentrate a lot more on for next season, the defense. Because we don't want the defense to die. It was the first big online tournament for Dota 2. There's no way we want this project to die.
Yeah, I remember when it started in 2011. It was amazing because it was the main thing after the International one.
Yeah, when $10,000 prize pool was... we were pioneers, damn it, we were pioneers.
I have a question about the defense quick. Are teams still complaining a lot about server choices? I haven't been in as many, still like as heavy.
Yeah, it definitely comes and goes, but as more and more teams are trying to take this a lot more seriously, Like some teams like, yeah, we ping 150. It doesn't matter. International's all that matters. And people are now, like a lot more teams are starting to say, you know, beyond the international, there's still a lot of prize money out there. And it's enough to keep them going throughout the year and keeping them as professional gamers. Like Mousesports made a huge amount of money over the last couple of months because they keep playing and they keep like succeeding. They play very, very well. Like they got $7,000 just from the defense. And then all these other competitions, they won EMS. That was a really good prize pool too. So there's a lot more happening where they can keep the funds coming in. And when you play for a large amount of prize pool, because all the tournaments are increasing their prize pools. Like we've slowly increased the defense. Like we're up to 25,000 after starting at 10,000. So a 15,000 increase over like a 3-season gap is not too shabby. And it's going to keep getting bigger as well as time goes on. So people are taking these tournaments a lot more seriously, and that means if there's a ping disadvantage, you want to fight for the best ping advantage you can get. And that causes the issues. It causes the squabbling, and it causes organizations like StarLadder, for example, like they separated themselves from the US. US teams weren't attending. They were complaining because StarLadder said, you know what, we're a European organization or a CIS organization. We're only going to play on European servers now because that's where we are. So you have to play on our ping or don't play at all. And most of the US teams said we won't play at all because we'll just lose. And it hurts the images of teams like Liquid and Dignitas if they keep losing to teams like Na'Vi, Virtus.pro. It's a big mark on their record, be it ping or not. A sponsor will look at a piece of paper and say, you got a loss. I'm not liking this. This should change.
Yeah, it's too bad.
So all we need are more lands, right?
That would be good. So yeah, MLG, more lands.
Subtle hint. Well, I want to go ahead and move on to the ISO Cup. You just wrapped that up too, so you've been really busy over the last couple of weeks. And the ISO Cup, the results, obviously, we saw KaiP take up a victory against IC Cup, 2-1 in the finals. And I believe you just finished that on Sunday. What were your impressions overall of that tournament? I don't know if Purge, you saw that tournament as well.
Which one? Who covered the ISO Cup?
That was Toby.
I don't think I caught many of those games. I watched the defense finals on VODs recently, but I didn't catch ISO.
The ISO Cups are very different. Like it's very different to the defense. Like the defense is the top teams. We have an open qualifier to get people in there too. But it's actually, I think we actually had an invite qualifier this time around. And we did that. So it's more of an exclusive tournament, the defense, where ISO Cup is more of a public thing. Like 4PL used to run a lot of these. Fnatic used to run a lot of these. The DOTA Open was exactly this, except slightly different. And this is really like the last ISO Cup just passed, didn't have a single TI team in it because all the TI teams are traveling and stuff like that. So sometimes the ISO Cup will have a lot of the top teams like Alliance. Who else do we have in there? Team Liquid were in there. Like Fnatic played, they actually won the cup in June. You got these teams which play in the ISO Cup, and that's great. But it's more of a platform for up-and-coming teams to display themselves and still play for some decent prize money. So it's a different kettle of fish. And of course, upcoming teams like KaiP perform very well in these cups.
This is a perfect transition, Toby. I'm so grateful because these last two tournaments that you both covered, there's some kind of theme, and it's that KaiP have had really good results. You just mentioned the fact that the defense, the flagship tournament, of course, for your organization, NYJohn, KaiP came second, and that was against all TI teams. And they come out, they get a second result. They're showing some consistency over the summer. Of course, one thing is true. They've gotten rid of Come With Me. They've brought in Sing Sing. What do you think, Purge? Have you seen some games from KaiP? What do you think about their play style in general?
I think KaiP looks really strong. I checked out the defense finals on VOD yesterday, and despite them losing to Na'Vi, I think they did really well. They took one game off of them, which was a pretty one-sided game once they actually got an advantage. And I mean, they're winning some of their lanes really well. Arteezy is doing really well against Dendy in many of his matches, and I think their ganking is solid. And Sing Sing has been playing really well as well. I know he just recently joined, and I thought his support was great, despite him typically playing a mid-role. Like, I think all of their players are very talented, and I also thought Come With Me was really good, but they cited like roster issues or something, like they weren't happy with personality or something. I don't know, but I thought both of them were good players, and swapping them out, I don't know how much of a difference it'll make, but I think their whole team is really talented. It's kind of like bottom of last year, basically. They're doing really well right when TI hits, but unfortunately they missed the cutoff. So
yeah,
kind of sucks for them. But at least they can get money. I mean, they're winning tournaments and getting prize, so.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Bottom of last year, they were kind of like the Dota 2 sweethearts of the community. Everyone wanted to see them at TI2, but of course, they had missed the qualifiers just like KaiP. And KaiP, the problem right now is that they're playing so well this summer. There's been a lot of competitions for them to really show what they've done so far, but they have to make it a whole nother year to potentially be up there for a TI4. Do you think that's doable for most teams? Because we don't see teams stay at the same roster for a whole year very often. I mean, even thinking about Na'Vi, they had roster changes this past year, so it's definitely a difficult task.
I think teams will change, especially after TI3 ends, when everybody wants to pick up the new best players that come off of whatever teams are going to disband, and there will be disbands, guaranteed. Heard rumors of many problems in like lots of teams, but they're going to play through TI3. After that ends, who knows what's going to happen, but I'm sure lots of people would be happy to strengthen their roster, especially if you look at the prize pool again this year and how ridiculously top-heavy it is. It says, okay, guys, if we don't get first to third, we're not making a ridiculous amount of money. So we want to make a ridiculous amount of money. We want any insecurities with our players gone, so I'm sure that teams are going to swap out. And I don't know if it's going to be like what happened to Dignitas. If you guys aren't aware of last year, Bottom turned into Team Dignitas, and Team Dignitas right now is not playing extremely well, or at least they're probably one of the worst teams going into TI now, whereas they were arguably one of the best teams in the world as of TI last year. So a lot could change in 1 year, basically.
Yeah, and Toby, I just want to ask you, in your opinion, should Sing stick with KaiP? I mean, he is a natural 2-player playing that solo middle usually, but he's kind of done a good job in that 4 or 5 role, playing some heroes that he didn't play nearly as often. I mean, Spearbreaker comes to mind. Everyone loves to see him on the Space Cow, but also I've heard he's training his Visage. Do you think that is a natural fit, or do you think Sing should maybe wait until that free agency period that happens after TI3 and see if there's a better spot for him where he can play his solo middle role?
I'm pretty sure if there's another opportunity that comes along that Sing likes, then he'll go for it. But he's also joined up into a team which is really dedicated, really focused, and also makes him a lot more focused too. And I think that makes him a better player all around. Like Cupid Red Panda seem to be very relaxed. Like it's from the good studio. Like everything is relaxed there. And yeah, I think it's a lot better for Sing to put himself out of his comfort zone of doing the number 2 role and experimenting with being a support player. And maybe like you're a support player for you're a mid solo for a very long time. Maybe that's not your calling. Maybe that's not your best role. He's a great mid solo, but maybe he's a better support, and he doesn't know until he tries it out. Like that's why I have a lot of respect for people like Fear, who can be a fantastic support. He can also be a fantastic carry. You could do multiple roles and understand things. It's like the same thing with Kuro. Like Kuro used to play the number 1 hard carry role all the time. Even dabble with mid solo, even dabble with long lane, and now I would class him as the best Rubik in probably the entire world right now. His support play is absolutely amazing, and his synergy with Puppy is absolutely amazing. You have a player like that just is dynamic. I'm hoping Sing also finds that too. He's got a long way to develop as a player, and if he develops with KaiP, that's great. If he's still with KaiP by the time TI4 comes around, well, that'll also be great, because then KaiP's road to TI4 was successful.
Yeah, and I think this is the case with many other players as well. If you look at EGM, for example, who recently joined Alliance, and most of his competitive experience before that, even when he was on Infuse for the longest time, he used to play either a 4 role or a offlane role, and he was very talented at that. And then he joined Alliance, and now he's constantly talked about as a really talented 5 position. I mean, anybody that makes it in the pro scene is really good at Dota. It's not like they only play 1 role, and generally, I think players are pretty able to switch things up and be talented at multiple things once they're good at one thing. Just once you get the game down, it takes a lot of refinement, obviously, to get really insanely good at 1 role, but going to support, I think, is probably a lot more homework and a lot less like mechanics practice, I would say. So anybody that gets good can probably make that switch.
Yeah, that's a good point. Guys, we're going to go ahead and head to our first break of the day, but be sure to stick with us. After this break, we have plenty more discussion coming your way, including more competitive scene talk, recap a couple extra events like the Corsair Cup, which just wrapped up as well. So stick with us. We're going to go to a quick commercial and then be right back with the roundtable.